Hi everyone, okay, so today I thought I would redo a tutorial I did about 5 years ago or so, and I thought it would be fun to redo this to see now what it's like on skin that's 42 years old and with quarantine hair and a quarantine beard. So let's jump into it. Now the beauty of this is that if done correctly, it can just make your skin look so beautiful. So let's just jump straight in. Now what you're going to need for this is a concealer and foundation. Two concealers, one that's very light and one that's much deeper. I'm just going to work from this little palette here. It's just a palette that I've depotted. These are Mercier Secret Camouflage and some others mixed in. I'm going to take the second lightest shade, so really light shade. And what I'm going to do with this is the areas on the face that I just kind of want to stand out, to be a bit lighter. So I'm just going to apply a little bit into the center of the forehead. As we get older, the forehead's going to look a bit flat. So I'm going to do it there. I'm going to do it a little bit down the bridge of my nose. Now I'm going to highlight the outside corners of my eye going outwards, because this gives a visual lift. And of course, I'm going to lighten the inner corner, and I'm going to bring this all the way down so that we're lightening this part. If you didn't have a beard, you may not, you can highlight the lip area. Now, I really do not like contouring around the lip with a darker color. I think that it makes the lips look sore and unpleasant. But everybody's different. So there's nothing left on my brush now. So I'm just going to blend these edges out a bit. So you can see that there's now a lot of light on the skin. And this is where people will end up going wrong, is that they'll apply the concealer and then they won't shear it out, and then they'll go in with a full coverage foundation, and you start to layer it and it gets very, very heavy very quickly. So I'm just going to take my finger and I'm going to shear this out by blending it, pre-blending it with my finger. And you want this to, even though this is a very thick, heavy product, you want this to not look like that on the skin. And this is why I didn't go all the way under the eye, because product blends and you need somewhere to go with it. I'm just going to take whatever's left just over the entire eye socket so that it's not floating out there in space. And we're going to take the darker color and add dimension with that. Now you can contour if you wish. I really like to think of it more as adding dimension to the face rather than thinking about structurally trying to change the way we look, because there's nothing wrong with your nose and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to take a deeper color. I'm actually going to take this one, which is really pretty deep, and I'm going to use that, if you can even see it. Of course you can't, but I'm going to use that. And actually that's a bit too deep. I'm going to go in with this one here, so it's a little bit more warm. Now with contouring, you usually go for a cool tone. I prefer somewhere in the middle because I think it looks more natural on the face if there's a bit more, it's not quite so greyish. Okay, so I'm going to contour around my forehead. Remember, the way to contour a forehead is, if you can put two fingers here and then you touch your hairline, don't contour it. 3 fingers, contour. 4 fingers, you really need to contour. 5, there's a problem. I'm just kidding, but you get the gist. So I'm just going to contour around those edges here, or deepen them, should I say. And this area here, now this is where you want to think, how do you want this to look, right? So for me, I'm a man and I have a masculine face. So I'm going to go like this and create this curve. And this gives that effect to the face. But it's a very hard look, and not everybody will enjoy that kind of look. If you don't want that, what you can do instead is you can round a cheek by bringing the contour up almost like you're cupping the cheek. So when you smile, you're almost cupping it. But for me, I'm going to just contour it down. We're going to contour the sides of the nose, And we're going to wrap it around so that it touches the eyebrow. Again, so that nothing is floating. And again, we're just going to take our finger and we're going to pre-blend all these areas. Really just work them in so that it's more, when you start to apply the blending color, you're working like an oil painting or a watercolor, more like a watercolor. You're trying to just, because we've added so much coverage, right? We don't need a full coverage foundation now. And again here, just shear things out. And I'll talk to you about the nose in a second. And again, this video, original video, was done 5 or 6 years ago. Okay, so now we're going to take away some of this pigment and some of this oil. Okay, so just grab a tissue, normal tissue, and a sponge. Wrap the tissue around the sponge, and we're now just going to blot all of what we've just done. And what we're doing here is taking away any of the excess oil and pigment that's left on the skin. We don't need it. It's just going to interfere and make it look heavier. And you can see you're taking away some of that excess product. And just doing this, even just doing this over your foundation, can make a really big difference in longevity. So next you're going to want to get a foundation. Now you want to be really sparingly here. I'm going to use half a pump, so a little bit, and I'm going to blend it on the back of my hand. And then you want to take a stippling brush, dip it onto the back of your hand, and then just knock it off. You don't want too much on here. And when it comes to this part, think about going in and stamping over the skin, okay? You're stamping out the skin. You're not doing this, okay? And you want to work in one section at a time. And the goal is that there is dimension to the face, that the line is gone, but there's still left dimension there. And we'll do the nose at the end because it can get a little bit more complicated and you will oftentimes need to use your finger. Now here I am going to just circle it just to make sure that I'm getting in that crevice. And all you're trying to do is make the skin look like it is not one color, that it's not flat. And that's really the goal here, and how I would approach contour and highlight. Probably on you, I would go with a slightly lighter foundation around the eye area, but if you wanted that area to be brighter. Now, I'm going to stamp out the nose gently here on the bridge. And what I want to do is when you're contouring the nose, and I said this years ago, don't go down. You're bringing the dark down, just stipple it up. And if you need to get in with your finger at the end, then do that. So just take a little bit of the foundation on your finger, and if you have to, just stipple over it, but stipple over it in an upward manner. And you just want to make sure that everything now is covered, so anything you didn't contour, so that you have a relatively clean canvas. Now you can go back in if you decide that, hey look, I really want there to be more light underneath the eyes. You can go back in, create more light in the areas that you think it's necessary, just to balance it out. And then just go in just again with your foundation brush with nothing on it, just to level it out. Now what you do now is you take your tissue again and you do the exact same thing again. You want to take away any excess oils on the skin. And it is really important that you don't skip this step, because otherwise your foundation's not going to last the way you want it to. And really it's just pulling off some of the excess oils. So at this point we can just give our beard a comb. Oh, I'm going to shave this a bit. It's awful. Okay, now we're going to powder. So when it comes to powdering, sorry about that, what you're going to need to do is, if you're going to bake, you have to powder first. So don't bake first. First, set everything really, really nice. Powder puff, going over everything we've done in a pressing, patting motion, not this, okay? Because you don't want to touch what you've just done. And at this point, this is now, and before actually, you really want to make sure it's pressed on, because at this moment, what you're going to do is get a big powder brush and you're just going to shoe shine the face to take away anything that was there, that's left over the powder. So just a nice big powder brush, just very lightly knock off any excess powder. Now this is the point where you can go in with your lighter shade if you wish to, underneath the eyes, and you can bake this area because you've set now with powder, so it's not going to cling the same way it would without. Okay, so I'm going to go in with a bit of a pink powder, and I'm going to go underneath the eye, and I'm making sure that I'm going outwards as well, because this tends to be an area that you want to lift. Now I put powder here because my nostrils are quite small, they're not flared, so I want to add a bit of light there to make this area look slightly wider, okay? So that's why I do that. Not everybody needs to do that, and I'm just going to add a little bit right here. Now you don't need to leave that sitting on your face for an hour, you really don't. You can leave it on there as long as you want, and then you can just lightly dust it off. Now all we're going to do next is go in with a little bit of bronzer, a little bit of blusher, and we're pretty much done. So I'm going to take a nice large bronzer, I'm going to take it on that same brush, I'm going to knock off any excess, and I'm just going to very lightly go around the outside perimeter, just the outside perimeter. So I want to leave that inner portion alone, and I'm just going to follow what we did, but just not as harshly. You can definitely shade underneath the jawline if you want to, and down the sides of the nose if you wish, but just that outside perimeter. So here's something that is a personal choice. When it comes to blusher, I always think if you're going to extend your eye, which means you're pulling it that way or up, then I always think that the blusher should be angled. Because otherwise you've got an eye that's going like this, and you've got big round cheeks with a big round blusher, if that makes sense. You've got the round blusher and then this eyeshadow going like that. I think kind of everything should sort of follow suit. So I'm just going to take a blusher, Nars Orgasm, and I'm just going to take it right on top of the cheekbone and just work it there, and not an awful amount either. I actually think this one's probably, I don't think this one probably needs to go in the bin. It's just been here too long. But just angle it slightly. I always think it just looks so much more jolly when it's angled. And I like to just take a tiny touch on the bridge of the nose, and just a touch on the forehead, touch on the chin if you can see it, and a touch on the Adam's apple. Now to finish off, we could put a tiny bit of highlighter on, and I'll just darken my lashes slightly so that they're not receding back into my head. A small amount of highlighter, a relatively similar tone to the blusher, and then I'm just going to make sure that all that's knocked off just before I blend it in. And again, I'm going in that angular motion because that's what we've done with the blusher. And you can just add a touch here if you wish, and of course you can go down the nose if you want. I don't really like to. All right, I think that looks all right. And this is just an updated version. I think the one I did previously, it was done in the daytime, which also helped, and it was done in natural lighting, and I was thinner. But the principle is still the same, is that you are trying to add life to the face without looking terribly painted, without it looking terribly overdone, unless that's the look you're going for. But I think it'll look all right. I think it's all right. It looks passable and pleasant, and that's all you're really after. You want somebody to go, your skin looks lovely, and that's what I think. And then you can just do anything you want now. You can go in with a big smoky eye, you could do something very natural and neutral, you could even go in and really contour all these things out in the eye area, beige lip, whatever it is that makes you happy. But that's it, that's how I would go about, and that is how I go about contouring and highlighting someone's face. The only things that I would do differently is your nose. I may not do your nose the way that I did mine, because everybody's nose is different and needs to be treated that way, and I have done several videos on it, but I'm going to explain that at another point. But there you go. Ugh, mess everywhere. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you all soon. Bye bye.